Greeting, innovators and leaders. This is AI for the C-Suite, your compass for navigating the exponential age. I'm your host, Chad Harvey, and we're here to bring you cutting-edge insights on AI tailored specifically for middle market organizations. Buckle up as we embark on a journey through the transformative world of artificial intelligence. My guest today is Nick Damoulakis, founder and CEO of Orasys, ranked as the #1 AI and custom software company in the United States by Clutch, and recognized among Gartner's 2025 top emerging specialist consultancies. For over 25 years, Nick has been transforming complex business challenges into breakthrough opportunities, leading a team that serves notable organizations, including the NFL, MLB, NPR, and Xerox. What makes Nick's perspective particularly valuable is his dual focus. He's both building AI solutions and helping organizations understand what AI can and, critically, what it cannot do. As an active member of the Forbes Tech Council and a sought-after speaker, Nick has developed a unique approach to AI education that starts with change management rather than technology demos, because, as he'll tell you, the tools don't matter if your organization isn't ready to use them. Nick's also a true pioneer in digital innovation. He disrupted the music industry by being the first person to publish guitar tablature online, creating one of the first online learning communities, and earning recognition in the New York Times. That same innovative thinking now shapes how companies approach AI integration. Today, we're going to cut through the AI hype, demystify how these systems actually work, discuss what middle market companies need to know about implementing AI successfully, and maybe hear a cut from his new album. Just kidding. Nick, welcome to AI for the C-Suite.
Hey, thank you for having me, Chad. Thank you.
Hey, I am really excited to have you here. You and I had a couple prep calls, and I got to share with our audience, you open your presentations with a countdown clock when you're talking about AI, talking about how many days it's been since ChatGPT went public, and you boldly declare in those presentations that there are no AI experts, and anybody that claims to be one, I guess including us, is completely full of crap. So that is a unique vantage point and a great place for us to start, because I don't think most folks have heard that message when AI, quote, experts are talking to them. So why is this an important message for business leaders to hear right now?
Yeah, I love how you open that up, getting right into it and put me on the spot, which I love. It's funny. Yesterday, I did a presentation, and we're at a actually really special day yesterday because it was 1,042 days. And as you all know, 42 is a very special number for us nerds. So I'll leave it at those. If you know, you know. So it kind of hits me that we're 1,042 days in. And, I do start the conversation saying that the people that are out there talking about AI and delivering these solutions, yeah, we're supposed to be experts. We're supposed to know everything. The reality is we don't. And we are experimenting and trying and learning every day. And every day there's something new. Every day there's something new. How can you possibly be an expert in something when it was just released on Monday? Yeah. ChatGPT agents, with ChatGPT. Like, okay, you're an expert now? Takes 10,000 hours to become an expert, we all know. So I really state that more. There's a lot of hype out there. There is a bubble that's out there. And I just bring it back to breathe for a minute and say, look, you might be hearing a lot of people out there saying a lot of things. Look underneath the covers, really get into the details of how things work, and make sure you're getting the right advice. Because what I am finding is everybody's starting to come out of the woodwork of being an AI expert or AI consultant.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was at a conference just this week, and somebody introduced themselves to me in the elevator. I said, hey, what are you all about? He's like, I'm an AI consultant. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I guess the bar to entry is fairly low. But anyway, I'm sure he's a very nice guy.
Yes.
So let's talk about that hype factor, though. I think you call it TikTok hype, right?
There's a little bit of that.
Yeah, a little bit of that. So how do you help folks distinguish between what's real and what is hype?
Well, it's funny you bring up TikTok. So I am on TikTok because there is some valid users in there that are giving good information. But a vast majority of it is, look at how fast I built X. Look how fast I've done this. Look at this AI agent, I built this. and they show these elaborate things. Well, I've contacted several of those people to get these elaborate AI agents that do these magical things. They don't work.
Yeah.
They don't work. So, there is that hype. Everybody wants it to be true. Everybody wants it so bad to be true. But the reality is, what I'm seeing more and more is AI is a great tool. There's so much good. But it's not easy. It's not easy to implement into a business that actually produces value, that you understand the cost, that you can actually scale in your business. It's quite difficult. It's great at getting 0 to 75% or 70%. Getting it 70 to 100, that's where it gets really difficult.
I want to double down on what you just said here, because I want our listeners to understand that when you talk about calling somebody out and cutting through the hype, it's not just rhetoric for you. I think you actually paid somebody for their time to dig in and see what was going on. Did you not?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've hired several people that are out there speaking on TikTok, YouTube, especially early on. And when I say early on, about 1.5 years ago. But usually every quarter I'll hire someone just to see what's out there and if what they're saying is actually true. Like, is it me? Am I out of touch?
Right.
And there's just so much of, hey, look at how fast you can vibe code this thing. And like I said earlier, it's really, vibe coding's awesome. I've done it. I've created some really cool stuff with it. It works really good for me, but not something I would deploy or possibly sell in addition to that. So I really challenge, I'm not saying it's impossible, right? There are definitely cases, but when you really look at what those applications do, they're very simple.
Yeah.
They're very simple.
The other theme I'm hearing, since you've surfaced the issue of vibe coding, is that when people are talking about doing that, I'm hearing a lot of success with vibe coding, again, air quotes for our audio listeners, with respect to rapid prototyping. I think there's a definite use case there for that.
By far, one of the best things that AI does do, hands down, is the prototyping, and it is rapid prototyping. So where there is great opportunities is when there is a concept of something that you want to create in your organization. And you can spend days or weeks either working with someone, or better yet, I say doing it on your own, and I'll explain why later, of building those prototypes out and just getting it from 0 to 70%. Because most of the time spent on these AI agents or custom software or applications that we're building is really extracting the information out of what's in our clients' heads onto paper. That is where the vast amount of time is being spent.
I just realized something here as well. I don't think I've ever actually defined vibe coding on this show. And we've got listeners with a wide range of technical skills. The kind of audience is embedded in the title, AI for the C-suite. So I have to assume there's a lot of CEOs and leaders out there that don't understand what that is. Can you give me just a quick definition from your perspective on what vibe coding is?
Even better yet, it's a feeling. So there's two parts to it that I'll say. So I heard the term a few times. It was roughly about 6 months ago. I was like, whatever. I just kind of pushed it to the side. Yet another buzzword, right?
Right.
And then I came up with a concept, something that I wanted to solve for myself. And if you really want to get into AI or coding or anything, find a problem that is close to you that you want to solve. So important. And I had a problem. For me, my problem was prepping for meetings. I had a list of things that I do. And on my list, the amount of time that it takes me to prep for a meeting, it takes a long time. And quite frankly, sometimes I just don't do it. And that's really bad.
Shocking.
Really bad. Yeah, don't tell anybody.
Okay. It's our
I wing
secret.
it.
Don't worry. Nobody listens to this show. You're fine.
So I actually sat down. I was like, you know what? Prepping for a meeting is really, what's the process? You know, you go on LinkedIn, maybe Perplexity search. You do a couple Google searches. You connect some dots. I was like, this is something that seems ideal that AI could solve. Right? It's just workflows and data that's out there. It's already out there. It's all public information. So what I did is I sat down and I remember it so vividly. So that's why the word vibe is such a good word, because that's what happens. You just start with your keyboard, and it brought me back to the days when I was a kid coding for the first time. All right, and you just get this. And the reason why it's vibe coding, I believe, is you're able to just type something in and see instant gratification, instant results. And you start getting into this loop of, do this. Oh my gosh, it did it. It actually did what I want, and it did it better than what I asked. Click again, does it again. And you just start having this feeling. And if you're really working on something that's close to you, something that you're really passionate about, you just start getting into this creativity thing. And it's something that a lot of us miss, I think, because we're so involved on productivity today that we lose creativity. And
we
don't spend enough time. And it allows you to really get creative. And it's a muscle that I feel like we're losing in today.
I couldn't agree more, and I love how you laid that out there, and I think that even folks that don't have development or coding experience can relate to that, especially leaders of organizations, because so often it takes so long to see the fruits of your labors or the labors of the team and the organization. And like you said, this is instant gratification in many instances. So, yeah. During our prep call, I think you also mentioned to me that you tried a little bit of vibe coding initially with N8N, and that you had some fails there.
I have tons of failures, both in business and life and AI. You know, but this is the thing: you have to fail, because when you're failing, you're trying different things and you're learning the limitations. And where my story started with AI was with N8N, because it was it was a safe environment where you kind of look at it and you're like, I get it. It's visual. Most people are visual. So you're able to go to like this visual coding and connecting dots and getting things to work. So that was a great start. It was a great start of using drag and drop a little bit. There is some code in there, but you can figure it out with Google, you know? So that's where my journey started with AI, hands down, was with N8N. And that is actually where I started coding out this concept of meeting prep. You know, the meeting prep was pretty simple. At 4:00 in the morning, go on my calendar, extract all the users out of my calendar. Then from there, do research, so forth. And it wasn't just workflow. You know, in the past, you know, people get confused with AI agents and a basic workflow. It's not an if-then type of scenario. It is taking information and using cognitive level skills through AI on connecting the context and the meaning behind these meetings. So over time, I just connected those dots with N8N and AI agents. However, I did hit a limit really quick. It was great on getting a proof of concept, but within about 14 hours of working in it, I was like, I just can't push it. It's a Spinal Tap, you know, I couldn't push it to 11. I was stuck at like a 4, you know? So that is my story of like using AI agents and these drag and drops. It's really great. I got some proof of concepts out of it. I couldn't dial it to 11. I had to go somewhere else for that.
Fair enough. For folks that don't have your technical background or expertise, when they do hit that wall there, let's say they're using Replit or N8N or one of these different connector services, and they're doing the vibe coding thing, but they kind of max out. What's the next step for them then? Where do they go from there?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, so I went from N8N to Lovable,
Yeah.
and Lovable, I was actually, then that's when the vibe coding really started, because you were able to see something instantly. But even with that, it was like creating this Ferrari for me. It looked like a Ferrari. It had everything I wanted on it. It had no engine, and it definitely had no gas. Now, I know Lovable has come a long way, and I know you can build some simple applications in there. Try maintaining them. Try deploying them and maintaining them. Try being accountable for what it creates. It was really difficult. So what I've learned is I did hit my limit. And then I did have to bring in an actual developer who used Claude Code. And that is when things went to 11. So I was able to get my prototype down, a proof of concept. I felt like it was something that was worthy of an investment of time, energy, and money. I was able to get my prototype out there. All that work was done within 20 hours, right? And what's different, if I would have a year ago tried to develop what I did with 20 hours, I would have to get a team of a business analyst, a UI UX person, project manager, the developer, all of these people. That costs a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
It would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, what's so awesome about AI is it's just you and a keyboard, and you have access. Now, it's really good at getting you 0, 70, 80%. But the hard part's finishing it up to 80 to 100%, where it's actually something that you can put your stamp of approval on. It's secure, it works, it's maintainable, it's scalable, all those other things.
Isn't that always the case, though, with anything? I think about the folks I've worked with in the construction industry, and it's that last 10, 20%. It's the punch list items. It's the finishing. That's always the toughest part of anything.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. It's, I think it's just been exacerbated with AI because, again, you're able to get to that, we'll just say 0 to 80% and quick. And then you're like, well, it should be just equally as fast to get 80 to 100%.
Right.
It's not. It's not. You know, it's like I said earlier, you have everything of like the Ferrari that's put in front of you, but there's no engine. And then you got to have the maintenance, the support of it. You got to train the driver still. You got to train the crew, right? There's so much more around software and enterprise grade software when you deploy it in a company, especially if it's a SaaS product that you're deploying and you're responsible for other people's information, security, and so forth.
All right. Since we're talking about results here, let's slightly switch topics again into something near and dear to your heart, which is how these large language models actually work. And I know that this is something that you're passionate about. You talk about explaining how they work at a 4th grade level. And you've got this way of explaining it. I think you say that 2 + 2 = 4-ish. So yeah, let's talk about this. Walk us through why understanding how these systems actually work matters for anybody that's not technical, and how do they work?
And this is good. You know, when I think it's really important. Well, I'll start with this. Growing up, I actually read a newspaper. And one of my favorite newspapers, and I do know why, it was USA Today. Remember that newspaper? Anyone? Is that even a thing today?
I don't know, actually. That's a great question. Always used to be under your hotel door when you were traveling, right?
And I don't know why I liked USA Today, but I did. Come to find out, USA Today was written at a 4th grade level, I come to learn. Tells you a lot about me, not reading Wall Street Journal and USA Today, but I was able to get my information quick. I could comprehend and understand it. And it was news. I loved it. I think that's missing. You know, AI is extremely complicated. But if you're able to bring it down to the 4th grade level, it's awesome. So part of what I do is help people understand what vector databases are at a 4th grade level. And when they understand that, they truly start understanding how it works and the limitations. And yeah, it's definitely something that I'm very passionate about, because when you're able to educate C-level people about how it actually works, then they get it. And I do start with tokens, understanding what tokens are. I start explaining, a token is, one token is like dog or cat, right? 2 tokens, kitten or running. Start explaining when ChatGPT first came out, if you asked it to spell running, it only gave you one in it and misspelled it, right? Then I go to explain 4 tokens, artificial intelligence. So I start with, at a 4th grade level, every syllable is like a token, if you will. Good enough. 80-20, right? Then from there, we all know databases and Excel sheets. Everything's accurate, and they should be. That's a great use of accuracy for certain databases, financial reports, and so forth. So in a database, everything is a 1-to-1 value, How fast is Nick driving? 55 miles per hour.
Let's hope.
Okay. Yeah. The issue is there's no context. The issue is there's no creativity. So what vector databases do is it takes those tokens and it converts each token to a number. And each of those numbers is equal to a GPS coordinate that creates a vector. So, and those vectors are put in clusters into this database. You with me so far? Fair enough?
Yep.
Right? Simple, keeping it simple. So we have tokens. Tokens are converted to numbers. Numbers are put into a database. They create a vector. And those vectors are put into clusters. So if I was to tell you king is to men as woman is to
queen.
Good. You're bark is to dog. You're doing well. You're doing well. Bark is to dog as cat is to
meow.
Right. And what it basically does is it just put these clusters together. Mm-hmm. Right. Now, I think I'll pause for a second because the next part that people need to understand is the amount of time and energy it takes to put all this data into the database. So if you took a Mac computer, the most powerful Mac computer today, and you took all the information we could possibly give it to put all the data into this vector database, how long would that take?
I couldn't even speculate.
Well, based on AI and some estimates on my side, roughly about 100 million years. Roughly. Wow. So then people start understanding the need of energy, the need of chips, right? I think ChatGPT came out recently and said they had 800 million users.
Yeah.
Right? 800 million users. And your max that they're allowed to do is 1 million tokens in and 1 million tokens out. That's a lot of chip power and energy. Right? So once we understand that a vector database is nothing more than tokens to numbers. Numbers are coordinates in a vector database and the clusters. You then start understanding the importance of prompt engineering and context engineering. If you write something for AI, you have to make sure you're in the right cluster, right? That's why you always want to give it a role, who you are, what you want to accomplish, and a lot of detail around that prompt so you're in that proper place of the database. And to make this even more complicated now, these databases aren't simple little 2D, 3D databases. They're so complex and have so many layers, infinite layers almost, that people who created them cannot imagine how they actually work. Well, they do work. We sometimes don't understand how.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Oh, yeah. I think it was the CEO of Anthropic that came out and said that point blank in one of his statements. It was, we don't know how this is working exactly.
Yeah, because it's so complicated.
Yeah.
Now, think about these tokens. And we talk about these words being moved to numbers. Well, it's so important that it's numbers. Why numbers? Well, they're coordinates. It doesn't have to be words. It can be video. It could be sound. It can be anything. And it can be converted to numbers. So that's kind of how I explain vector databases of how they work at a fourth grade level. Sometimes I'll start explaining what temperature top P, top K is. We'll start getting into that because, you really have to understand the temperature. Back in the day when ChatGPT first came out, there used to be little levers where you could control temperature, top
Right.
P, top K.
Right.
Temperature controls how much randomness and creativity you want to give AI. So when you go in to ask something, how big do you want that cluster to choose from? Top P limits the words, right? It still gives you the most probable options and adds up the P value. And then it limits those words. Top K limits the next likely word. And when you start really understanding that in some granular detail, then you're like, hey, wait a second. I understand how a prompt should be made and why it's powerful. I also understand these LLMs can't invent something outside of this.
Right.
They don't. All they do is connect the dots in this massive vector database that we can't even comprehend. They can connect the dots faster than any human could ever do. That's AI.
Interesting that you raised that little teaser for our audience. We're going to have a guest on in early 2026 from down under in Brisbane who's developed a software AI application where they actually encourage the hallucinations. It's for creative types, and they are going well beyond what you're talking about with the temperature setting to really get kind of the wild stuff out there and try and push the limits of this to see if something new can emerge. They're having a lot of success in the enterprise space, so stay tuned for that one, folks.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I agree. They're doing some neat stuff with the tech. But back to here and now. I think that's a really good way of breaking it down. And essentially, what you're doing is you're reducing this to the concept of probability and statistics as opposed to quote thinking, right?
It really is. It's matchmaking. It's prob and stat. That essentially is what it really is at the end of the day. But it just has so much information that it makes it look like it's magic.
Yeah. What advances, I'm interested in your perspective on this. What advances have you seen over the last 2 years? You talked about tokens, and you talked a lot about, in a good way, about explaining how all these things work. What have you seen in terms of changes to these different models? Doesn't matter if we're talking about ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, whatever, that maybe surprised you, that you didn't think it was going to be able to do based on its past performance. Because I think you, more than a lot of folks that I speak with, are firmly in the practical skeptic category, if I could categorize you like that. Yeah, you're a practical skeptic, but you're also open to new things. So what have you seen? Yeah, right? What kind of changes have you seen that maybe surprised you, that you were very skeptical about earlier on, that now you're thinking, oh my, wow, look at that?
Well, I mean, it's the journey through it, and you got to go all the way back to the beginning. And then you have to think about where your mindset was. One of the things I do is keep a little journal of AI next to me of that journey.
Oh, nice.
Right? Because it's really interesting. What'd you think it could do? And then something else comes out and you're like, whoa. So we started on day one when ChatGPT first came out. It's like, man, it came out in November. I'm like, help me do my reviews. All right. Help me write up my reviews. And we used it for writing. Right. Majority of it was writing, and it was good. And it got better and better and better. And then it added emotional intelligence to it. And you kind of hit a cap at a minute and you're like, okay, this is really nice. It's a good writing tool. Then coding came out with it. Right. And then that took it to another level, and that's getting better and better as writing is getting better and better. Then, image manipulation came out. And you're like, wow. Now, this vector database of numbers, it can do language, and it can do just about any language that's out there as long as you're feeding it that language. It can do code. It can do any code you want as long as it's getting that code that's out there. Then it starts getting the images, manipulating images. We all saw Nano Banana, where that's going. You know, I do. That's another one, by the way, where it's like you see all this stuff out there of how crazy and awesome it is. I go in there and use it. I'm like, man, that did not hit for me.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it is.
I was not terribly impressed. It's cute. That's about what I would say. There's parlor trick AI, and I don't want to be dismissive of Google. They'll come and crush me. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where that falls for me.
It doesn't hit all the time, but it's version 1.
Right. That's right.
Right. It's version 1. Then it came out with video. Mm-hmm. Holy cow. Google Flow changed it. Mm-hmm. And then VO3 under Google came out, and that it was even better. So you really have to try and play with each one. Now, are any of those things 100% there? No.
Yeah.
No. But each one of those, whether it's writing, coding, video, or graphic manipulation, each have their own story, and they all are taking leaps and bounds. And we're only today 1,043 days into it, right? So I'm super excited of where it goes, because I do believe that we're able to just going to upload something and talk to it, or have a different way of communicating faster to these AI tools, and you'll be able to get what you want. And the accuracy of it will be better. And the accuracy of these AI tools of knowing you individually, of how you talk, what you want, what you say doesn't work and works, that's going to start learning more and more. And it's going to fix your issues that you have in communication. So I'm very optimistic on where things will go. It has revolutionized and changed the way we do business, and will continue. We just had a big retreat last week down in Nashville. And one of the things we had to do is, okay, we're 1,000 days in on AI roughly. What's it like in another year, 2 years, 3 years? How are we creating software? And one of the things we came up with, which, I could see this happening, is, we all are told with developing software using agile methodologies, a little bit at a time and so forth. I don't think that's the future. I think the future is actually, if you wanted to build something, Chad, I'm interviewing you and asking really good questions, taking those transcripts, creating a prompt, and going back to more of a waterfall, right? Where I'm getting all your requirements. And then I'm building that prototype, and then I'm coding that prototype, and instead of agile, it's going back to waterfall.
I'll take it one step further, Nick. I think that instead of getting the transcript, you're going to have real-time feedback from the AI system during the conversation with the client that's going to provoke and prompt different questions, so that you don't have to have a follow-up and a follow-up and a follow-up. You might need, 2 or 3 conversations instead of 4 or 5.
Very true. Yeah. Very true.
But I think you're spot on with the waterfall analogy.
Yeah. Things are just going more and more to that side, and everything's a cycle. Everything's a cycle. There was waterfall. Just for those that don't know, waterfall is just that technique of getting all your requirements up front. In the past, people hated it because it took months or years to get all the requirements, and by the time you then started building something that took a year, it was obsolete. Well, now you're able to get those requirements and prototypes done in days or months, and it thinks of all the use cases, not just some.
That's really interesting too, because I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for developers and organizations in terms of the scope of the project, right? I wonder, I hadn't thought about this before, but as you're talking, Nick, I wonder, does this maybe create a higher level of expectation on the part of the client then about what's possible? Because very well, a big part of your job is reining the client in.
Yeah, so it used to be. Like I said earlier, that quote of we're so focused on productivity that we're losing the creativity in our lives. When you talk to real entrepreneurs that are dreaming big and have really big visions, this is what excites me the most on AI is when you dig into their brains and you're able to extract what their wants are in the software world. If done correctly, AI is going to help bring together some incredible companies in the near future.
Agreed. You also touched on something a minute ago. I didn't want to drive by it without calling it out because I thought it was really important. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but basically what you were talking about was personal AI. AI that is personalized, that understands who I am, what my needs are, both professionally and personally. And I do think that, to use an overused example here, the Jarvis AI from the Iron Man movies, right? I think something like that, something that rides along with us, apologies to Microsoft for the co-pilot term, but as a co-pilot that understands what we're working on, how we work, what our tone of voice is. I really do think that personalized AI is not that far off based on what we're seeing right now.
This is Nick Theory.
All right, Nick Theory. Gather around the campfire, kids.
Yeah, the campfire. And this is like I do believe what we're slowly doing is we are creating a digital twin of ourselves very quickly. So what that means is as you're using an AI tool, one AI tool, so like if you're using ChatGPT or Claude, whatever it may be, that tool is starting to know you more and more than you think. One of the best things you can do to prove this is ask the AI tool that you use, if you have personalization and memory on, ask it to give you a review of yourself, of how your performance is in your company. Give it a photo of you and ask it, what medical information can you tell me about this photo? You'd be surprised on what it comes back with. So as you're using these tools more and more, I believe what's happening is it's creating this digital twin of you at work. And that digital twin, what you do with that, who owns it, what happens when you're no longer at an organization, but that information and data is there that can be tapped into. This is a whole nother problem of something that's going to be happening in the future. And when you look at an organization, you have everybody's digital twins. You have an organizational digital twin as well. So there's some wild things to process.
There are. We had a great interview with an AI specialized intellectual property attorney earlier this year, and I need to have her back again because things are changing a lot. But one of the things we talked about is that our current legal framework, whether we're talking about intellectual property or anything else, per your idea about a digital twin, it's not set up for this. We don't have the legal structure, the statutes, the case law, anything like that that's going to really help us understand what this all means. So I'm glad you surfaced that concept of a digital twin. I think it's something that organizations should be thinking about from a policy perspective. There are very specific documents that engineers often sign that say, hey, what I develop here with the company is going to stay with the company. I don't know how far you can extend that. And I don't expect you to answer that question either. I don't think any of us really do, but yeah.
Update your HR books.
Absolutely. So, all right. One of the things that you and I had also talked about before this call, full disclosure, I have calls before the calls with my guests, everybody, was that MIT study. And I think we've seen a lot of holes poked in it about the small sample size and things like that. And for those that maybe aren't familiar, there was a MIT study came out in, I think it was August 25 or July, something like that, basically talked about a 95% AI project failure rate. And I know that you had some thoughts about that, and I wanted to just kind of tee that up for you because I think that this is it's an important data point and a conversation starter for folks that are thinking about AI projects, and especially when companies are trying to build like big customer-facing AI solutions when really the value's in the back-end low cognitive skill work. So with all that word salad out there, thoughts?
You know, so this was one of those things that it came out and it stated 95% of AI projects fail. Now I can say this, backing that up, what we're seeing and the Gartner research that came out in the past was 80% fail. I see a good 80%, but it's also 80% you have to fail in order to learn. So let's put this in perspective. But MIT, I mean, come on, they're the best of the best, right? Like if they say something, that startled me. So I went ahead and actually read what they said in there, right? Actually read it.
Wait, you actually read it?
And also used AI. And this is what some of the things that I did not like about it. That MIT only talked to 150 execs.
Yeah.
They didn't talk to any engineers. Right? So that's like going to a hospital and asking hospital admins why surgeries fail without talking to any surgeons. Let's just start there.
Yeah.
So I was alarmed and not happy about that, number one. Mm-hmm. Now, I do think there's high fail rate. I'm not taking that away. But I feel like this was the first time there was just clickbait out there, from MIT out of all places.
Yeah, right.
But they had some really good concepts in there as well. The buy versus build. They talked about, hybrid wins, meaning, the best chances of bringing AI into your company is just buy something off the shelf, put it in. You'll have some successes. Your next successes are hybrids, where there's a little bit of custom and a little bit of a vendor. Those are success. They talked about doing pure custom is very difficult, and you're probably going to have failure. I would tend to agree that because there aren't experts to get the stuff done. There aren't enough of them. So those were some of the big things that I kind of saw out of that. We could probably dive in more into it, but at a high level, that's what I got out of it.
Yeah. No, I think that your example about asking a hospital administrator versus a surgeon about the fail rates, I think that really drives that home. And it is an interesting study, but again, not enough focus, I think, on what really matters there. So
it was a little disappointing. It was just disappointing.
Yeah.
It was.
I'm trying not to slam it, but yeah.
And I am too, because there is truth to a lot of it, but I just didn't like the way how it was marketed out there. But I will say this, there is a high fail rate, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It's not a bad thing. We're in a world now where we have to excel our companies forward. There's a lot of fear out there. There's a fear of missing out, the fear of people spending money in technology and not getting return on investment. There's a fear of what AI is going to do on companies' culture, a fear of the competitors are getting ahead of you with AI. And then there's the fear of people just don't know where to start. So when you put all those fears together and you say, hey, we have to do something, you're not going to nail it the first time. You're going to have failures. You learn. It's like building a business, So I believe failure is absolutely needed in order to bring AI into your business. It's our jobs as business owners to have the psychological safety and be great leaders to allow failure. I'm all about, making that failure happen often, keeping it fast, and make it cheap.
I couldn't agree more. And to tie this back to one of the places where we started our conversation today with the idea of vibe coding and rapid prototyping, I've viewed in many ways AI as a ground up versus a top down type of value proposition here in organizations. And I wonder with this pilot whether that speaks more to the need to invert the whole process as opposed to traditional pilot programs that are more top down driven IT initiatives at the organizations. If you follow me there.
Yeah. There used to be in the custom software days back in when we did by hand, I always showed a glacier, right?
Yeah.
And you see the top of the glacier, and with AI, we see all this awesome stuff on the top of the glacier, but we all know underneath the water, that's 90% of the glaciers under the water.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot down there.
Yes,
there's a lot down there. So the top bottom is what I'm getting at. You see this and you think that's it. There is a whole slew of stuff you have to do from the bottom up.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Speaking of glaciers and what's below the surface, let's talk about our favorite models here. Because I know when you and I talked, we're both really heavy into Claude and to ChatGPT. And then you kind of blew my mind in the prep call. You're like, hey, I'm really liking Gemini. And I'm really interested. What are you finding there that you like, number one, so personally, but then also for execs and leaders that are even now 1,000 whatever days in, just beginning to play with models and think about what to use? How should they be thinking about the different models and maybe what's an approach vector? So what do you like and what's an approach vector here for leaders?
Man, this is a tough one.
It is.
Great questions, first off. All right, I'll tell you mine. You tell me yours. How about that?
All right. 1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, go. So it's a journey. So one, doing what I do, I force myself to change.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're all good at something. And I tend to find that little changes in the interface is what I tend to go towards. And I just build a comfort with something. The problem is with AI, comfort's the enemy of progress. So when we start having comfort in one LLM and you only look at that one LLM and you're going for answers every time in there, you're missing out. So I did start with Claude. My relationship with Claude was fantastic for probably about a year. Okay. I was deep into Claude. I loved it. Then I was like, okay, actually, let me take that back. I went to ChatGPT first. I'm sorry. ChatGPT was my first love. And I started with that. And then everyone started talking about Claude. So I jumped over to Claude and wow, the writing was better. Just a little bit. They hit with the emotional intelligence and the writing better. And then ChatGPT came out with the connectors, MCP connectors into your email and everything faster than Claude at that time. So then I was like, I think I'm going to jump over to ChatGPT. Meanwhile, we're a Google shop. I got a free license of Gemini hanging out over here that I really haven't been spending enough time with. And I'm hearing all these great things about it. So one of the other things I do is I coach. I coach a flag football team, all girls flag football team. And there's a lot of statistics in that. And I was finding ChatGPT kept screwing up my stats. It just did not do a good job with numbers and maintaining information. So I went over to Claude and it was a little better, but not great. I went into Gemini and it didn't have any errors around the numbers. I was like, wait a second, what just happened here? And I just don't know if it's the names of these things, the interface, the fact that it's Google and we know Google starts a lot of things and they're like, we're not going to do it anymore. I don't know what it is in our psyche.
Yeah.
But I started using Gemini more and more and more. And as I used Gemini and Gemini started to learn me more, I started finding that the results and the cost to get the results were better and cheaper than some of the other models that I used to really like. Mm-hmm. I still struggle with the maybe the interface and the words that Gemini uses. It's nothing more than that.
Yeah.
But I challenge everyone to kind of force themselves to try different ones. So you start learning from each one of what they do well, because a leader is going to come out of these over time. Mm-hmm. And you don't want to be stuck with a mindset of being on a beta versus VHS tape the rest of your life, Yeah. So it's really hard. So currently, my true love right now is with ChatGPT, but I'm definitely looking around, and Gemini is coming up in there really, really quick, and I'm using it more than I ever thought for solving real business problems.
Okay, maybe that's a good one, because you gave the flag football example there in terms of the math. Are you finding that with, again, air quotes, the real business problems, you're getting better results with Gemini, especially with, say, numerical type things, data, finance, that kind of stuff? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, I will analyze data in Gemini, and I feel like I get better brainstorming, better questions back than some of the other models. Some of the others being Claude and ChatGPT. There's Grok out there. Haven't played enough in there to say much on there. And then we're not a Microsoft shop, but when I do see the Microsoft results and how it works, it just seems like it's such lockdown, and the results I get are me. So I don't even bother on that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Are you finding that Gemini also processes what I'm going to call multimodal document sets as well as Claude? So, for example, I can throw an academic study into Claude with a lot of data, a lot of visuals, and also natural language, and I'll usually get pretty good summaries and distillations.
Yeah. I mean, right now, so for instance, I'm doing a strategy for 2026, right?
Yeah.
And
it is the time of the year.
Yeah, taking information from research from IBIS reports, vertical IQ from the bank, what private equity companies are saying is booming and what to do there. Just all this research. Now, there is no way a human being can go through all of this research and connect all the dots. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing is getting all the research. I'm making sure that the research is really good research, not just some junk, because AI is only as good as the data. We also happen to do some market research on ourselves this year through a company, which was fantastic. So I'm adding that into it. And what we're doing is taking all that information, all the factual information that we believe is the best, and we're trying it out in different models, seeing what we get back with different teams. Right, with different teams, and we're seeing how that can help us with our strategy. I also came across a product that a friend of mine put together, where you can then take your strategy, and I have to get the name for it. I just don't have it off the top of my head. But he created personas of some of the greatest CEOs in the world in the past, and you can brainstorm your strategy with Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, so forth. And it gives their different perspectives. And, I think a lot of these things, if you're a CEO, and at the end of the day, you're responsible. At the end of the day, you're responsible, period. And sometimes you need that environment to be on that creativity side. I find that it's super helpful to be doing these types of different types of brainstorming to get information and make some decisions on where you're going with your company.
And by the way, we did have the gentleman that you're talking about on our podcast here earlier. I think it was Rob.
Rob Ray.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, smart dude. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Great guy.
Absolutely. So if anybody's interested in that, go check out episode 12 from. Man, I think that was almost a full year ago. I believe that was January of 25 when we interviewed Rob. So, yeah, good stuff.
Great guy, and definitely knows his stuff with AI. Again, a person that's also tinkering with AI.
All right. Our time is running short here. So for maybe the last area of exploration here, Nick, I'm interested in talking a little bit about process in companies and how organizations for time immemorial have just been trying to slap Band-Aids over bad processes. And I think that, yeah, you're laughing. I think that AI makes it a lot easier to do that in some ways, because you're not thinking about how to reinvent what you're doing. You're not looking at your business in a fundamentally different way. And I view this as a strategic challenge, not just an AI challenge. So when we bring AI in, though, and we think about this, how should a leadership team be thinking about this whole concept in terms of what we do, how we do it, where AI is appropriate, where can we automate, where can we augment, right? All these different questions that come up. But the heart of it, I think, is, it's revolutionization versus just automating your existing processes.
Yeah, a lot here.
Yeah, I know. Okay, and go.
I'll say this: probably the most common error that engineers do make is they optimize things that should not exist. All right, so let's start there.
I love it.
So, at the fourth grade level, when you're looking at these designs and processes, one, I always say this: number one, simplify, automate, eliminate. Right? Mm-hmm. Start there. And in this process, I think there's 5 steps really we look at. One, and sorry, these is Nick-isms that we use. So,
all right, we're going to write them down. We're going to turn them all into bumper stickers. Well, they'll be merch later.
Yeah. Number 1, make the requirements less dumb. Just start there. Yeah. Just a Nick-ism.
Love it.
Then from there, once you make the requirements less dumb, delete parts of that process. Like they're just not needed. Eliminate this stuff. Then you simplify and optimize, accelerate the cycle time, and then you automate. So I kind of look at those things. Make the requirements less dumb, delete the parts of the process, simplify and optimize, accelerate the cycle time, and then automate. So that's kind of how I look at it. And this is the crazy thing. If you take a process that's in place today and you just automate it as is, you might be automating something that's going to exacerbate a very big issue in your company. Mm-hmm. So keep it simple. Eliminate, automate, as much as you can, man.
I think that's really solid advice. And it's going to become even more critical because when we do start to deploy agents on our behalf within these organizations, the bad processes and a lot of what you just hit on, I think is really going to start to bubble to the surface. It's going to get masked for a time, right? Until the problem gets so big it can't be ignored. And I do think we're going to see some organizations that end up with some pretty big problems as a result of that.
Yeah. Cool.
I feel like I've turned you upside down and poured out a lot of knowledge from you today, Nick. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with execs in terms of advice or things that you're thinking about that they should know? Anything I didn't ask you today that our audience would get benefit from? Yeah.
Probably the only thing I would add to everything we talked about is if you're an executive at a company, you yourself should be using these tools yourself. You should be pushing the boundaries because if you're not understanding them, you cannot tell the rest of your company to do these things if you're not doing it yourself. So be the example.
100%. I could not agree more. That's a great note to end on today.
Yeah.
For our listeners that want to learn more about you and your company, maybe get in touch. Maybe there's some recruits out there for that flag football team. What's the best way for folks to do that?
I'll always check out our website first off. Orasys is the name of the company. That's ORASES.com, orasys.com. Check us out online. If you're interested in just having a conversation, just fill out the form online or hit me up at nick@orasys.com, and more than happy to talk.
Excellent. Nick, I loved our discussion today. An hour goes by super quick. So thanks for sharing your time with us and your expertise with the audience. This was just fantastic.
Thank you, Chad. Likewise.
And for our listeners, thank you for once again tuning into AI for the C-Suite, where we're committed to helping middle market leaders thrive during the exponential age. If you found value in today's discussion, be sure to subscribe to our podcast, follow us on all the socials, and visit our site, aiforthec-suite.com. Join us next time as we continue to unlock the potential of AI for your organization. And until then, keep your algorithms running, your leadership evolving, and your AI in check. Take care, everybody.